good afternoon. You see the way I lean forward there, as I don't have a director, a producer, a floor manager. I set my own camera. Thanks for joining me, by the way, at home and personal. Now, what happened yesterday, I recorded a piece yesterday, and it was too large to put. I don't understand anything technically, but they tell me it was too large to put up or too long. So I'm going to make this shorter to see if it loads. The other one wouldn't load up. I had to dump it in the end. And what I'm going to talk about now is this morning. I was out this morning, and someone said to me, "Thank you. We watch your they call it your podcast. Well, it's not exactly a podcast, but broadcast. We watch your broadcast, and thank you." They said they enjoy it, but they said, "Listen, it was your 20th anniversary of the radio station. Wouldn't it be lovely to hear how you set the radio station up?" Now, that's not just me making it up. It was our 20th anniversary in May, this month, 20 years since I set up REM FM. And I'll go through it with you, and I'm not going to sidetrack. We'll get straight into it. I was walking in Dunn's stores one day. You know Dunn's stores in Whangarola, the big store. And I bumped into the manager there. They were my sponsors for quite a long time. Dunn's stores, late breakfast show where better value beats them all every day. I bumped into Leo, and Leo Keown is the managing director of Dunn's here in Spain. I bumped into him, and he had someone with him. And he said, "Oh, Maurice, meet," I can't even remember his name, let's say Paddy. He's a jockey, and they go to the Hippodromo in La Cala, the Hippodromo racetrack, which is closed now. They used to have racing there. It was fantastic. Anyway, he introduced me, and he said to me, the jockey said to me, "My boss is a big fan of yours, and you advertise as my boss's development on your radio station, and he'd love to meet you." And I said, "Well, look, there's my telephone number. Give him a call. Let him give me a call or whatever." You know, he's one of our advertisers, and I thought, well, fine. Anyway, it wasn't long after that I got a call inviting me to lunch from the boss. Now, I'm not going to go into any names. I know I may mention Leo Keown, but, oh, my earpiece fell out. I know I mentioned Leo Keown, but there's a gale blowing. If you hear it, it sounds like the sea, but there's a gale blowing today. Very welcome. This cool breeze. It's a stunning day. Anyway, so I got a call from the boss of the development and the owner, and he invited me for lunch. He's a foreigner. That's all I'd say to you. He's not English. And one thing that struck me immediately when I met him at lunch in a five-star hotel was that the table was covered in food, and then I realised this was a habit of his. He would order nearly everything on the menu and then just pick what he wanted. He wasn't fat. In fact, he was very fit, a man who goes to the gym. Just pick what he wanted. And he said, "Listen, I love your radio show." He didn't say that in an Irish accent. And he said, "Thank you for advertising our development." He said, and then we kept talking. And he said, do you ever fancy your own radio station? I said, "Well, of course, that would be fantastic. But it's a very expensive thing nowadays to set up a radio station the way I'd want it. Not from your bedroom." And anyway, he said, we started chatting about it, and he said, "Well, how much would it cost?" Now, I just plucked a figure out of the sky, and in the end, it wasn't enough. But he said, "Why don't you come and see me in my office?" And his office was in the La Colonia Centre in San Pedro. And I didn't think much of it, by the way. Why don't you have your own radio station? I'll finance it, stuff like that. The reason he said he wanted to finance it because it could then be part of his development. Very big. I mean, we're talking about a couple of hundred more apartments. Nice apartments, 500, 600,000, maybe a bit more. And it's in construction at the time. So anyway, I went to see him in his office, and we chatted away. And I'd known of a frequency that I was saying. Now, let me make this clear. At that time, and I think it's probably the same now, all the English radio stations are illegal. They haven't got a legal license. Now, I want to just emphasize, things might have changed. I don't think so, but they might have changed. So don't ring me up and say, "Jesus, I have a license now." Anyway, they were all illegal. But I heard of a license for sale, and I thought, well, if it's for sale, it's going to be legal. And it was Spanish-owned, Malaga. And I was telling him this, and he said, "Well, invite him into the office." So I rang the guy, and I said, "Would you like to come up and meet us?" So he came up and we met him in his this developer's office in San Pedro in La Colonia Center. Very, very nice offices. And the financier said, how much do you want for it? And he said, I want 100,000. And I thought, well, it must be legal, 100,000. And this, immediately said, I'll take it. And this is exactly what happened, exactly what happened. He picked up his phone and phoned his secretary. We were in his main office, big office, and outside there was about 6 staff. And he says, prepare a check for 100,000. I said, but hold on, we got to check all this. And he said, how bad can it be? That's more or less the way it went. But it wasn't a legal license. I think the guy was a bit of a chancer. Anyway, we bought the license. He bought the license. Now I knew he was serious. He'd made the commitment. Unless the check was going to bounce, but it didn't. And his legal team drew up a contract with the guy. So then he said to me, can we have another meeting? And I said, of course. I went home, I thought, this is it. I'm going to get my own radio station. Well, shares in it. I'm not going to own it totally, but I'm going to be a major shareholder or a senior shareholder or a shareholder. I thought of the name REM-FM because when I used to go to Vegas and when I was in Onda Cero, I used to always say Radio Europe, and that's how we got Paul Anka and Gladys Knight and Neil Sedaka and all these people on my show, Huey Lewis and the News, the Imagination, all these people. Because if I said Onda Cero, they'd be, but if I said Radio Europe, I used to lie a little, I know a little lie. And they would come on the show. So I thought, well, I call it Radio Europe, but I'll stick in the Mediterranean, so you know where we are. That's the thing. I call it Mediterraneo, like me Spanish. Hello, how are you doing, etc. I call it REM-FM. And that was it, REM-FM. I like that. I love coming up with names, so I'm lying in bed. I have no studio, I have nothing. I'm still on the Thera Radio, by the way. So we had our next meeting, and he said, now you need to find studio. He was really going fast here. He said, you need to find studios. I thought I had the blessings from above. And I said, okay. I said, I like your office. Now, I was half joking at the time. He says, picked up the phone again like he did with the check. He said, the secretary, we're moving out of here. Maurice wants it. Find new offices in the same development. In fact, in the same Colonia Centre, they found offices for rent was across from these, which I was going to turn into the studios. And that was it. So now I had brilliant studios to set up. But now I needed an engineer. And I've always fancied a guy called Alan T. I think he was with Spectrum Radio. He was one of these technical geniuses, Alan Bowley. And yeah, I went after him and I said, but by the way, I was given a very good budget to tempt people onto the radio to work for me. And I got Alan. And so it was Alan that said, REM-FM would never have been what it was if it wasn't for Alan Bowley. He set it up, Alan T. He ordered all the equipment. I remember watching it arrive. I watched the builders, the carpenters, because they were working for my developer in the development. So I had builders anytime I wanted them. And setting up, oh God, I couldn't sleep at night with excitement. This was it. Now I wanted presenters. So I went to all the colleagues I really liked on Onda Cero Radio and hired them at twice the wage that they were getting, or maybe 3 times, with Mary Harbour, Barry Mitchell, Steve Ritson, who else was there? Howard Berriton, of course, Howard Berriton. Nicola Chalmers, head of sales. I wanted her desperately on the radio as well. I got Stephanie Miller came in as my PA. I don't want to miss out anyone. Craig James, the late Craig James, when I say late man, he did the midnight show. These were all people from Onda Cero. Mary Harbour. And so I got them all. There we are. So I love making up adverts. So the radio station's being built at the time. They're still all working in Onda Cero. I went in one evening to do my show, and the head of Onda Cero at the time, he said, Maurice, give me your keys. And he said, I know what you're doing. You're stealing all my staff. He said, you better go. So I was more or less sacked. But I was sacked. I wasn't working for Ondathero. I was an independent for Ondathero. Anyway, gave him the keys. So now it came public that, not public, now he knew what I was doing. And he probably tried to persuade his staff to stay, possibly. Anyway, we did that. So that now we had the staff. Now I wrote an ad which I thought was very clever. 2 weeks after them getting rid of me, the staff left Ondathero. All the presenters, the Marys, the Barrys, the Howard Berritons, they all left in preparation for the opening of REM FM, which was now weeks away. So for 4 weeks in the newspaper here, I came up with this idea, and I have no idea where it came from. So all of a sudden, people who would listen to the Mary Harbour Show, or the Barry Mitchell Breakfast Show, or the Howard Berriton Show, or the Steve Richens Show, etc., all those people, all of a sudden, they were gone. Ondathero, they were gone. They weren't there anymore. And I got a photograph of a milk bottle. Do you remember when there was cream on the top of the milk in those days in the milk bottle? I removed some of the milk, got a photograph of the milk bottle and put it on a green background. And all it said was, "Where's all the cream gone?" Nothing else. No mention of a radio station, no mention of Ondathero, no mention of names, just those words. I came up with those words, where has all the cream gone? And people were talking about the ad. It was a full page in green with a white milk bottle. Very nice. I'm going to put it here on this. Although the one I have now, is the end of the 4 weeks. And I put the name of each of the presenters, Mary, Howard, Maurice, etc., etc. I put them all down in a row. So now everybody knew it was a week away from the opening. And I got Johnny, I think it was Johnny Gates, the lovely Johnny Gates, the photographer. I said, "Johnny, do me a favour, find a beautiful looking girl with long blonde hair, take her to the beach and get her to sit down looking out to sea as if she was naked." "No, come on, don't start pointing fingers at me, and I'll tell you why now." So it's just her bare back, and put headphones on her. And I came up with this idea called All I Have On is REM FM. That's all people knew. All I have on, and people were, "Well, the cream's gone, REM FM, what's all this?" But it really got a buzz going. Now, I stole that idea, by the way, from an advert, I think it was, of Marilyn Monroe. They asked her what she wears at bed at night, and she said, "All I have on is Chanel No. 5. And then, of course, REM was launched. The opening speech I made, terribly nervous, at 8 o'clock, was it 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the first Monday, one of the Mondays in May, welcoming everyone to REM FM. Barry Mitchell and the Breakfast Show took over, and it was an instant hit. Nicola Chalmers bringing in the advertising, and it was wonderful. Luxury studios, everything was absolutely fabulous. And it ran and it runs now. Unfortunately, the backers, the financiers, did a sort of a runner and left me holding the baby. I had to sell my car to pay tax, for example. We brought in a new. I had 2 people who wanted to come in to buy into it. I picked one of them. I'm not sure I picked the right one, but anyway, the radio station went from REM FM to TRE, Talk Radio Europe. And I was shortly afterwards that I finished with the radio. But that's the story of REM FM. And REM FM raised fortunes for charities. That's another one of my policies, raising money for Quedeca, for Age Concern, for all sorts of things. We used to have a show on the Christmas Day called Wish You Were Here, and people would send in a fax that said, "Phone my mammy in Dublin," or what have you. It was great fun, great fun. And that's the story of REM FM. Now let's hope you enjoy this, and we might continue this story into things that happened that maybe shouldn't have. Lean forward.